What's up YouTube, Dale here from Zephyr, and today, thanks to Burst Protocol, I am able to bring us an update for DDDs. That's right, so this is going to be an update post Burst Protocol, and it's looking very, very cool. Yeah, the deck only got one brand new card, but there has also been a brand new Forbidden Limited list, and one of its greatest adversaries in the form of Droll Lockbird is no longer running around at maximum potential. Now, there is still cards to be a little bit fearful of and a little bit knowledgeable of, but what makes this deck so good is it is incredibly powerful, it's got a lot of starters, and there's a lot of variety for it. As a disclaimer, the deck isn't like 100% complete yet, and the reason for that is there's a couple of cards left I can't really make up my mind of as of this exact moment in time of what I want them to be. So what I'll do is I'll take you through the exact baseline of the profile, I'll show you a demo side deck, and then I'll also show you the cards that I'm contemplating, and then hopefully you guys at home can help me out to be like, maybe try this one or maybe try that one. Also, massive shout out to Different Dimension Dreamer. I'm going to put the link in the description down below for their most recent video. It's probably like the most informative DDD video on the entire YouTube, or even on the entire internet, to be honest. Very well constructed. It shows you all the combo lines you can do using the brand new card Alfred, and then it also shows you all of the different routes if you get interacted with certain hand interactions, and just kind of like demo ideas. So really, really implore you to all go and check that out. I definitely watch it as research because I think it's the most complete thing. So yeah. With all of that out of the way, let's dive headfirst into the profile, show you what we've got, and explain why we've got it. So, going with the starters, you're going to want to max out on your Triple D Zero Doom Queen Machinax. This is probably one of the best bits of support this deck has ever received. Like, it's so, so good. For those of you unfamiliar with it, you put it in the scale, and then during the main phase, as long as it was activated that turn, you get to place a Dark Contract continuous spell or trap from the deck face up on the field, and then you can only use the effect of Triple D once per turn. On top of that, its monster effect is, if a face-up Triple D and or Dark Contract card or cards you control except itself is destroyed while this card is face up in the extra deck, you get to special summon it, and then you get to non-target destroy a card on the field. But then if this card in the monster zone is destroyed, you get to place it into the pendulum scale. So it just kind of keeps recycling itself, and being a scale 0 is just absolutely insane. Then the other starter for the deck is free Double D Savant Kepler. This one just on normal summon or special summon, you get to activate one of the following effects. Target one other DD card you control and return it to the hand, or add a Dark Contract from the deck to the hand. So more times than not, you're going to be adding a Dark Contract. Speaking of which, the Dark Contracts, so we play free Dark Contract with a gate. Just being able to add a DD monster from the deck to the hand means that you are technically playing 6 copies of all of those cards you've just seen. And then the other Dark Contract continuous spell you're going to go for, mainly off of the Queen, is going to be Dark Contract with a Zero King. And this one lets you tribute target a DD card you control, which can also be the Queen itself, destroy it, and then you get to special summon a Double D monster from the deck. Now, the one big thing to remember about this is if a card lists Triple D, it can only summon a Triple D. But if a card lists Double D, it can summon a Double D or a Triple D, because the Triple D involves Double D, but a Triple D is not involved in a Double D. So it's all about the Ds. One thing that I'm not playing in this deck, and this is still something that I need to kind of decide on how I want to do it. So I'm going to show you the other DDD cards first. For our extenders, we've got free Count Surveyor, free Griffin, and free Scale. Now, these are all your extenders. So Griffin will summon itself if you control a DD monster. The Scale Surveyor will summon itself if you control a Pendulum DD monster. And then the Count Surveyor, you can discard a card to then summon it, and then it lets you add a DD monster with 0 attack and or defense. So the kind of question mark over all of this is, and this is kind of like the approach I've made with this particular build, is I don't want to be playing loads and loads of discard cards, which is why I'm not playing Forbidden Droplet in the main deck. It's also why I'm not playing 1-for-1 at the moment, which is still something that I'm trying to consider, because obviously 1-for-1 can get you to Kepler. I'm also not playing Dark Advance. I know it's not Dark Advance, but the one that lets you discard a card then add a level 8 Fiend. And I'm also not playing like Super Poly and Forbidden Droplet as well. Like, I didn't want to play loads of cards that just meant that I needed to discard cards. I'd rather play non-engine cards that help me disrupt my opponent. Stuff like Dominus Impulses, main deck and Droll and Lockbirds, Morchomi Fualosses, cards like that, rather than cards that require discards, because I'm already using one with the Count Surveyor. Yes, of course, you can have multiple cards in the deck that require a discard. That's absolutely fine. I just didn't want to be seeing combinations of those cards. Because if I see Super Polymerization and I see Count Surveyor, it's like, well, straight away from my hand of 5, I'm burning 4 cards already, and I've got 1 card left. Technically, it'll be a hand of 6 once you consider Super Polymerization, but then if you're setting the Super Polymerization to use during your opponent's turn, different story. So, you could play Forbidden Crown if you wanted to. honestly, I'm not ready to lean into Forbidden Crown right now. I think considering that today is the second day of the sneak premiere event and the set comes out in like 4 days time, it's just way too early to judge the price of Forbidden Crown. It will fluctuate a little bit like that for the next couple of weeks, and then it will kind of settle out its ground point until someone utilizes it to its max potential. So that's it for your extenders, and then for the bricks of the deck. So we've got the one Lance Soldier, the one Copernicus, the Oblivion King, Abyss Ragnarok, the Necro Slime, and then the Orpheros. Now, because of the introduction of Alfred, you actually can afford to cut out Orpheros. That's absolutely fine. If your build particularly doesn't want to use Orpheros, or you as the player doesn't want to use Orpheros, by all means, get rid of it. I don't mind it. I'm kind of in this grey area right now where I don't mind its scale level, I don't mind its scale effect, and I kind of don't mind the fact that it's a level 4 tuner. It's less relevant right now because you don't need to be relying on your Clovers as much because of the introduction of Alfred, so you've got that other level 60 you might need. So it's still something that I'm contemplating whether I want to use it or not. Now, like I said, this deck's going to be, I believe, 38 cards. There's still like 2 cards left for me to put into the deck, and ultimately I was considering bumping it up to like 41, or if you cut out the Orpheus, that's your perfect free slots, that's your super polymerization. The other cards that I'm considering are Bestials. You've got Sales Band as a possible option as well. Like, there's a couple of cards that are just running around my head at the moment as to what I want to involve in the deck. And then once I've kind of figured that out, that's what I'd put into it. But that 4-card slot is like your personal preference. Whatever works for you, go with that. I like super polymerization, but because the format's still a little bit up in the air, especially post-burst protocol, I don't know how effective super polymerization is going to be. And I'm like, well, is there another card that could be in the main deck that would be more helpful for me? Maybe Perulia. Like, if the format shifts to being pure Radiant Typhoons, maybe people start to prioritize Perulia over Fuelos, or they go, you know what, we'll play Perulia and Fuelos. So. And then for the final Dark Contract is the Dark Contract with the Eternal Darkness. You can play Witch if you want to. I think Witch is absolutely fine. I don't mind either one of them. But you basically just play a continuous track card, which again, you don't need to be relying on. But the idea is whether you set that face up off of the back of your Queen, or whether you search it off of your Triple D Wave King Caesar, it's kind of just one of these end pieces that you're just adding another layer to your end field. Chances are, once you complete that combo to go through the little Triple D Wave King, you're probably already winning the duel, and this is just that final card to say, this is going to make it, like, this is going to be the final nail in the coffin. Then for the non-engine, we've got 3 Mulchomi Fueloses, 3 Ash Blossoms and Joyous Spring, Dominus Impulse. I've decided to go with Forbidden Chalice over Infinite Impermanence. This might change a little bit now. Imperm is still absolutely fine. I've got no issues against Imperm, and that's where 2 spaces could come into it. There's also Cross-Out Designator you could consider. You could main deck 2 Draw and Lockbird. Like, there's a load of different options you can kind of narrow down. I just quite like the fact that I want to be a little bit more aggressive as well. What I like about the Forbidden Chalice is it gives me that option that once my opponent feels that they're safe and they can start using their hand interactions to present their fields, like Fine Mana is still at 3. You still got to worry about Cool Tune Clip in the future as well. And then there'll be some other cards that will start to interact with you. I think the Forbidden Chalice can be a very big game changer, because a lot of times people will be like, yeah, cool, my Vanquish Soul Horizon's completely fine. I don't need to worry about an Infinite Impermanence. And you're like, cool, use the effect, and you go, cool, change Forbidden Chalice. And they're like, ah. And again, most people are expecting Forbidden Droplet, but you then have to sacrifice cards you want to send. Sometimes that works perfectly well, which is why discard is not the worst thing in this deck, because you might open up the Necro Slime, or you might open up the Lancer, and they're absolutely fine to be discarded. No worries whatsoever. You just don't kind of want to be in a position where you then have 2 discards, but not enough discards to follow up with. The final 2 cards is Nightmare Throne and the Call by the Grave. I decided to test out the Nightmare Throne as opposed to 1-for-1 and the Dark Advance card, for the pure fact that 1-for-1 and Dark Advance both require you to discard. And again, I wanted to minimize the discard outlet of this particular deck. You can bump it up higher if you wanted to, but honestly, I think Nightmare Throne is probably the best one. That is your 1-for-1 that isn't a 1-for-1. Without Droll running around as rampant, you can be a little bit more disrespectful towards Droll, and if they have it, they have it. But I still feel that this is probably like the safest risk, just because you don't need to worry about that discard. So that's it for the entire main deck. Like I said, there are 2 slots missing in this main deck. It's just something to kind of consider. They're your preferences. I will show you what I'm considering now before I show you the extra deck. So the cards that I'm considering, like, I was considering a very small canine package. So it'd be 3 Azuna, 1 Lupus, and the whole idea behind that one is that during my opponent's turn, I can Azuna, Lupus, and go into Ripper, or I can Azuna, Lupus, or just Lupus, and go into Typhon. You're not going to be using this to search out any other K9 card. The downside is that your 2 Izunas will become dead in the hand technically after that point on. If you're playing Typhon and you're playing Ripper, then technically you can bring back Lupus from the graveyard, but the Ripper would then protect you from the Beerus, it could protect you from some certain hand interactions, and it was kind of a nice little disruptor. So that's one thing that I was considering to fill in the final voids, and that would bump the deck to 42 cards. To bump it to 41 cards, Super Polymerization, as I've already mentioned. The benefit of this one, or the downside of it as well, is that you have to find 2 to 3 spaces in the extra deck. The 2 is obviously going to be Mudragon and Garura. The 3rd would then be like environment specific that's going to be effective against that environment, whether that be Starving Venom, whether that be Secturion Dragon, you name it. But again, it's just something that I was considering. Sales Ban is the other option on this one. And again, this is just, once you know your environment, once you start to realize, okay, this hand will lose to this exact particular card, you could call it. I would probably much rather consider Crossout Designator and then main in 1 Perulia for the pure fact that, yes, you can play Sales Ban at 3, but you're never going to be able to deal with a Perulia or a Fuelos. And the Fuelos is actually really annoying against this deck because you just want to go off and have your strongest end field. So, again, a lot of stuff to consider. Crossout Designator, Pops Prosperity could go straight into the deck with no issues as well. Then the final card would be like a Bestial package. It would be like the Magnemute, the Druid Swarm, and the Ball Drake. Or you can just play Magnemute and Druid Swarm. Really is entirely up to you. But it's just an option that I'm considering, trying to get my head straight on how I want to progress going forward with this format. And if there's that kind of card that fill the final slot. If I can't consider or like decide on any particular one of these, like my ones at the moment, I'm highly considering the K9 package and I want to test that out. And then the next best option, if you're at home, you're like, what do I put in for those last 2 spots? Just put in a Crossout Designator and a Pot Prosperity. They're both absolutely fine. So those are the contemplations that I'm kind of trying to get my head around. Moving on to the extra deck. So for the extra deck, we've got one of the brand new Alfred. You don't need to play more than one of this. Like, it's perfectly fine as it is. It requires 2 DD monsters, and during the main phase, you get to fusion summon a triple D fusion monster from your extra deck by shuffling its materials from the hand, field, and or banishment into the deck. So, Necro Slime into this guy, and then shuffle the Necro Slime back into the deck. Happy days. If that wasn't enough as well, is that if this card is banished, you get to target a Dark Contract, continuous spell, or trap card in your graveyard, and or banishment up to the number of triple D monsters you control. Place them face up on the field. Only use the effect once per turn. The benefit of this is that it's a level 6, and just on its own, you go Necro Slime, make this guy puts the Necro Slime and the other DD that you use to make it, to then make your Genghis, and your Genghis can then start reviving, but then straight away you overlay these 2, and you go wham, bam, thank you, ma'am, there's my High Wave King Caesar. A lot easier, you don't need to worry about Clovis, you don't need Clovis to revive, you don't need to then go, do I go Clovis or do I go Siegfried? You're just going to go straight for this guy. Speaking of, you still play the 1 Clovis, absolutely fine, and you still definitely play the 1 Curse King Siegfried. Pretty much a no-brainer with DDD decks, in my opinion. The Clovis is a little bit questionable as to whether you absolutely need it, and I suppose it kind of comes down to them ones. If you're not playing Orpheros and you're not playing... If you're not playing Orpheros and you feel that you could cut the Clovis, that's when you can start opening up the door to go, right, okay, well, this is where the Super Polymerization slot comes into the place. This is where Ripper comes into the place. Like, gives you a bit more flexibility. And then for the other DDD cards, you've got 2 of your Gilgamesh, 1 of the Zeus Ragnarok, backed up by 2 Divisive King Dulce Machin X, 1 Wise King Solomon, King Tell, and Triple D Wave King Caesar. And then the final one is the Quadruple D Dimensional King Arc Crisis. It's just like your game ender. Other card you can also consider if you wanted to utilize Alfred to its max potential is it's actually just a heck of a lot easier to now make Super Doom King and the Wave Oblivion King. So these are a couple of old school cards. You don't really need to rely on these because the Dimensional King Arc Crisis is just that crazy good. They've kind of power crept those 2 cards. But if you wanted to, you can consider them. Another card that I also do consider to fill the last slot, if I wanted to keep it pure DDDs, is the Triple D Super Doom King Bright Armageddon. And this just gives you protection of targeted effects, but only for your Pendulum monsters. If it's all your monsters, happy days. Or like all your DDDs, happy days. So that's it for the extra deck. Again, keeping a note on the extra deck as well that it is 1 card short. The idea behind that one is that that's where the last space comes into mind. You would adapt it for your Super Polymerization, adapt it for your K9s, you name it. For the side deck, pretty simple on this one. So 2 Fua, 2 Perulia, 2 Droll. Like, you can play freeze if you want to, but this is just to give you a balance of the environment you're going to. And then backing these up with 3 Nibiru the Primal Being, 3 Iron Thunder, just like my go-to, go-first trap card right now. And then 3 Evenly Matched. I think Evening Match is going to be one of these cards for the future. I think it's going to be one of the ones that a lot of people are going to overlook. But definitely when we get any aircraft, this can be one of your game winners, and it'll probably end up, if any aircraft do hit it off, this will be one of your staple cards for your side deck. Side deck, basically adapt to your environment. It's really as simple as that. You could put in Forbidden Droplets if you want to, but honestly, like I'm saying, if your last 2 slots, you're like, I don't mind having a second card that discards, you put your Forbidden Droplets in there, you can probably take out your Forbidden Chalices, and then you start looking at, well, do I main deck Nibiru? Do I main deck Meows? Do I main deck Perulia? Do I main deck Droll? And then you adapt it to the environment that you're going to, and then you open up the space to play other cards in the side deck, whether that be the Cross-Out Designator, whether that be the Sales Ban, entirely up to you. It just gives you so much flexible options. And that is pretty much it for the entire profile update. Like I said, there's not a huge amount that's happening. There are a couple of unique choices, or like choices in the deck of DDDs that you could make. They're a little bit more down to personal preference, which is absolutely fine. Like, there isn't a direct way to play DDDs. The only thing that is direct, like you must play, is you're gonna be wanting to play 3 Doom King, Doom Queen and 3 Kepler. It's then going to be advised that you're playing like the 1 Copernicus and the scales. Like the number of scales you play, down to personal preference. The number of Griffins, the number of Count Surveyors. All of those are entirely down to personal preference. You could be like, yeah, I want to play that many copies, or no, actually it kind of works better for me to play 2, 2 and 2. So entirely up to you. Whatever ratios you play will open up slots for your own little tech cards as well, which is actually really, really good. Anyway, that is it for the entire profile. Like I said, I'm not going to do a combo on this one because I just feel that Different Dimension Dreamer just does it so much better. Very, very informative. Like, listen to it as a podcast if you want to, or just watch it on transport when you're on your way to like locals or whatever. But very, very informative video. And I was like, I'm not even going to attempt to try and replicate. I'm just going to push everyone to his channel because I think it was, you know, very well done. And they do like, they've done a whole guide on DDDs. Like even the old DDD videos post pre-Burst Protocol are all incredibly informative and well worth watching, especially if you're new to DDDs, because DDDs can be one of the most complicated decks around, but they can also be one of the most powerful. Anyway, thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, share. Till next time, as absolutely always, stay safe and of course, happy dueling.